Hey Mom, I have a few questions about 9/11 for you.
Okay, what are your questions?
So, where did you live in 2001?
I lived in Southern California in the mountains in a town called Anza.
So, how old were you?
I was 20 years old.
So, what were you doing that morning?
I was a college student who also worked, and that morning I was getting ready for work.
So, what were your emotions when the North Tower got hit by a plane?
I was mostly shocked and confused. I didn't understand what had happened.
How did you find out what had happened?
At the time, your dad lived in Chicago, and he had been at work, and he had heard that something had hit the North Tower, but he didn't know what. They thought maybe it was a missile. They didn't realize it was a plane, so he asked me to turn on the news. While I was standing there watching the news and watching the smoke pour out of the tower, I watched the second airplane hit the tower.
So, how did you feel when the second plane hit the tower?
When that second plane hit the tower, it meant it wasn't an accident. It meant that something bad had happened and that bad people were doing it. What it meant was now I had something to be worried about and scared of. I was worried because there were threats on all the major cities. And so we had friends and family, and your dad especially, near major cities, and we didn't know who was next.
So, do you know anyone who was in the event?
No.
Do you feel sympathy for the people who lost their family members?
Absolutely. Those people got up that morning, they got ready for work just like the rest of us, and they went to work. Or maybe they took a family vacation, or maybe they were on a business trip. But they all got up just the same to do their everyday normal thing. And that day ended in tragedy for a lot of people, and it makes me sad every time I think of it.
So, how did it change your life?
It changed my life because at that time, your mom and your dad were still dating. We were engaged to be married, but we weren't married. And at that time, we had to travel via airplane to see each other. And when we did that, it was scary because you didn't know whether or not you were going to survive that plane ride. You didn't know if somebody bad was on that plane with you. It changed how we did things every day. When you went to an airport, you couldn't just walk somebody to the gate anymore. You had to leave them at the baggage check. You had to make sure that we were keeping everybody safe, and it meant that a lot of the things that we took for granted before, we couldn't do anymore.
And, what's something you learned from September 11th?
I learned that we don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. You always make sure to let the ones you love know you love them. That we cannot live in fear because bad things happen. This was a very bad thing that happened. So it just means that we need to be more aware of our surroundings, know who's around us and what's happening, but to live every day fully.
Thank you.
You're welcome.